How's it going, everybody? This is Seer here, and we are here to discuss Season 12 of Cosmic Crucible. We have the defense options video for you guys. So in these videos, I like to give several options as far as how you can actually set up your defense for the upcoming season. Now, this is an evolving list. This is just going to be like the initial impressions, if you will. Now, the way we're going to start out with this is going to be the global list. So in here, it's going to be the joint operation, and whoever the future team is going to be, on assist, they're going to be gaining safeguard. So this is actually very impactful. If you guys are not aware, safeguard's a very powerful buff, and because that is a buff, this has a very specific room that I'm going to be seeing this in, and that's probably where it's going to kind of settle once everything kind of lays out. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to turn off the camera. We're going to go through the room 1 through 6, and I'll kind of give my initial impressions, what I'm going to be doing. My team's going to be in the red box, so that you're going to be able to see what I plan to use during this. The infographics for this are going to be available on my Discord channel. That's going to be in the description below. That's going to probably come out probably Saturday, so that way it gives you time to watch the video, kind of share it, kind of get me a little bit more exposure. If you guys can share the video, that would be fantastic if you guys do enjoy this. So let's go ahead and start with the video now. For stage 1, Invulnerable. This room is going to be Raider and Skirmisher characters. They're going to do an extra 200% more damage when they fall under 50% health. There's going to be a very specific character that you see on here, which is Thanos Endgame. He is a very powerful character where when you knock him below 50% health, his passive is going to trigger. He's going to remove all of your buffs, including Safeguard, and he's going to do a lot of damage. Now, if you make him a Raider for this, that's going to be very devastating to where that can basically wipe out your entire team. We've seen this in the past when the Extreme X-Men were in here, which you do see that as an option. When Gambit dropped under 50% health, he would use his ultimate and basically delete your entire team. This is going to be done basically by a health trigger, which he also heals off of, so you're going to have to face that multiple times. So having the Annihilators in here is going to be very dangerous. Now, who I plan to use with this is going to be the new character Kahori, who is a very strong character, basically a one-man army. I do plan to make her a Raider for this room. That way, if she does end up surviving the initial barrage, she's going to be at low health. You're going to come back in, and you're going to have to deal with that extra damage right off the bat with those 2 turns. So Annihilators, Kahori, and currently at the end of the season that we just finished, season 11, Super Skrull was a very powerful 5th member of that team. Now, I plan to use Ms. Marvel Classic in here. However, I think Super Skrull is going to be a very strong character in here as well. The buffs on spawn to where making Super Skrull go is going to be very powerful, and the turn meter rewinds that can end up happening for this is going to be a pain to deal with, and this is what I plan to use in stage 1. Other teams that can work in here are going to be the Illuminati team, or if you want, add in Odin, add in Black Knight, do your pre-taunt in here. That could be very dangerous as well, to where the team, as they start getting knocked under health, they have a great sustain to where they can heal back up, and they're going to be bouncing above and below that 50% threshold, to where this is going to be a very difficult team to take out as well. The Night Stalkers do have the drain mechanic in here, and they hit very hard, making several of those members Raider, who I have anyways besides Blade. That could be very powerful in here as well. However, I do think Night Stalkers is going to be an offensive weapon in here. Now, the Extreme X-Men, as I mentioned before, having it to where Gambit can get knocked under the 50% health, or Nightcrawler, then they kind of get their ultimates off, and that could basically ruin your entire team. So those are other options that you could end up putting in here as well. For stage 2, I plan to use my Astral team with Black Knight in here. The thought process behind this is when you use the ultimate ability, your opponent's going to get the one ability energy back, and it takes a lot of turns to really drain this team out to where they can kind of self-sustain, because they get a lot of ability energy anyways on crits. So having it to where your opponent has to be mindful of when they want to use their ultimates to try to push the team is going to be something that your opponent's going to have to be mindful of. Now, the same team that we discussed in Stage 1, to where the Annihilators, Kahori, and either Ms. Marvel Classic or Super Skrull, that could be a pain that you have to deal with in here as well, because it takes a very specific counter to be able to beat this. And as you're using the ultimate ability energy, you're feeding more ability energy to the enemy team. And Thanos endgame, when he puts an exposed mechanic on you, that's going to be able to give ability energy to its team as well. So this could be a very dangerous team that you put in here. Now, Ms. Marvel Classic, her ultimate is on a 10-turn cooldown, so having it to where there's ways to feed ability energy to her, on top of the exposed mechanics, having the room benefit her as well, that could be a very interesting team that you could put in Stage 2 as well. And having Super Skrull as the alternate option, to where you're really feeding ability energy to them, pushing that Super Skrull to the ultimate ability so much quicker, is going to be something you have to be very mindful of. Another good option that could go in here is going to be the full Absolute A-Force team when they come out. Again, having it to where they can really generate that ability energy is something that could be very dangerous because of how sustainable this team is with the heals, with Ms. Marvel Classic getting those charges and the taunt on them. It's going to be a very difficult team to take out. However, I don't think we're going to be seeing the Absolute A-Force as a whole for the opening portion of the season, at least, because people's going to be using them with the Annihilators team. However, later on in the season, I do see this as a possible team that emerges every now and then, to where people try to really stretch out your resources. Now, for the Orcus team, they can be very dangerous. However, they do have very easy counters right now using that Night Stalkers team. I think once the Emma Frost X-Men ends up getting that passive rework to where it does work on defense, this could be something that could become more of an issue. And having it to where this team is able to generate ability energy as you're trying to take them out, that is going to be something very dangerous, especially getting the more ability energy to that Scientist Supreme, so she's going to be ulting a whole lot more. The Lady Deathstrike, getting that ultimate off a whole lot more, along with the Nimrod. This could be something that could end up putting an end to the Night Stalkers counters that we currently have. For Stage 3, this is the When It Rains room, and the way this works is when a positive effect is applied, the duration of all the positive effects are going to be extended up to a maximum of 3. Same with the negative effects. Now, there's two main characters that's really going to be able to benefit from this room. One is going to be Mephisto, who sends out a lot of negative effects on your opponent, and having those keep getting extended is going to be an issue. Another one is going to be Odin in here, because when he gets that special off, along with a lot of his other abilities, that's going to really start extending all the positive effects that's on the team. So this is going to be a Odin and Mephisto room, I see, at least until that future team that you see on here, where I just put future team, because we don't have confirmation of who this team is yet. The only thing that we know about this future team is when they get the assist, there's going to be Safeguard that's going to be applied, which is a positive effect, and that's going to be extending the duration of all other positive effects. And depending how this team works, if they get a lot of positive effects, that's going to be extending the Safeguard. It's going to be a very dangerous team to take out in Stage 3. The Orcus Mephisto team that I'll be using in here is just a team that has a lot of positive effects on spawn, and Mephisto puts out a lot of negative effects. So I think this is going to be a pretty dangerous team. The Night Stalkers, they don't really spawn in with a lot of positive effects. So it's going to be something that we're going to have to see if the Night Stalkers can still take this out after the double stack on there. Now, the Illuminati team or Odinati team, however you want to run this team, is going to be very dangerous in Stage 3 because of all the positive effects they put out there. And like I mentioned with Odin, or if you end up doing a Sasquatch, which I usually end up using, the taunt that the Sasquatch keeps putting on is going to keep extending all those positive effects. So it's going to be really difficult to really get through that. The Spider Society team is a team that has a lot of positive effects on spawn, so everything keeps getting extended on there. So I could see the Spider Society being a dangerous team in here as well. I think overall, the stage 3 is going to be the room that really makes or breaks your Cosmic Crucible defense, depending what you put in here. For stage 4, Temporal Shielding, this is the bio and tech characters. When they do a basic, they gain speed up, and with speed up at the end of the turn, they're going to be gaining barrier for 20%. The reason I'm thinking the Odinati team is because of the speed up that they get. So that's going to keep getting the barrier on them, and that's going to be a lot more difficult to really get through this team. The Sasquatch always having the taunt on him, where if you try to knock it off, you really need to do a lot of damage to him, so that way the taunt does get reapplied. Then there's Odin that's going to be able to put the safeguard up, heal up the team, and the way the speed up ends up working with Odin, that's going to be a lot of barrier that you have to get through as well. This is what I plan to use in my stage 4. The Absolute A-Force, this team here really survives off the barrier that they end up getting, so having it to where the 4 members are bio or tech, if they end up doing the basic moves, they start getting the barrier and the speed up, it's going to be really difficult to get through. But like I mentioned earlier, I don't really see us having a full Absolute A-Force team at the start of the Cosmic Crucible season. It's going to be something that's maybe going to come down later in the line, depending on how this future team ends up evolving Cosmic Crucible. The Spider Society team, I think, is going to be one of the big teams that we end up seeing in here as well. There's going to be a few rooms that this team can really survive on. There's a lot of biotech characters that's on this team, so having it to where they can keep getting the speed up, the barrier, making them survive longer, that's basically what I kind of see happening here for that. Same with the Orcus team. This is a full tech team. Throw Emma in here so that way they really start getting the speed up, the barrier. They can kind of keep moving. It's going to be based on when Emma ends up getting her passive basically fixed to work on the defense side of things. For stage 5, Duck and Weave. This one here is basically the Spider Society team, or maybe a Hive Mind Super Scroll version of a team. Basically, when they get a dodge, they're going to get offense up. When they get a hit, they're going to get defense up. The team I'm going to use in here is just going to be the Spider Society team. This is basically going to be a dead room unless you end up using like a Spider Society or Hive Mind portion team in this room to where they can really take advantage of this. I don't really see this room being that impactful. The Spider Society is just going to be an efficiency sink unless you end up having that specific counter for this team. Now, I do want to point out that there's 2 teams I want you to avoid using in here. One is going to be the full Orcus team. The other is going to be the Extreme X-Men, whether that's with Rogue added in or somebody else. The main reason being is Hive Mind or the New Warriors already counters both of these teams, and having it to where the team basically gets offense up on their dodges. When they get hit, they're going to get defense up. They're going to be able to really take advantage of this room rule as an attack team. So this is basically, if you treat it as a dead room, try to put characters or teams in here that the New Warriors struggle with. That way you're not really feeding and giving your opponent an easy victory with the New Warriors team. And the last room that we're going to look at is going to be stage 6, Symbiote Satisfaction. The hero characters are going to count as, or hero symbiote characters are going to count as villains. And this should be for every single character as far as the second bullet goes. When you drop below 50% health, your enemies are going to flip their negative stat effects into positive, and all your allies are going to flip positive status effects into negative. It's basically the butterfly effect that we had during the trials. I'm just going to end up using my Extreme X-Men Rogue, and I'm going to throw Dorm in here. I really want to see what this ends up doing, because having it to where you really need to be mindful of when you push the Forge. If you get a kill or start pushing your opponent, all those negative effects are going to flip to positive. Rogue being able to have the Safeguard, Gambit can have Safeguard. This is going to be kind of an interesting mechanic in here. However, I do think the Illuminati is going to be a strong team in here as well. They're able to get Safeguard, and having it to where their positive effects are safe from being flipped is something you could really mess with your opponent with. Now, again, you can add Odin in here, Black Knight in here. You can do a lot with this Illuminati team because how good they are. Even if you put Doctor Strange with this team, it's a very dangerous team that you have to deal with. The Absolute A-Force is another team I think that could really benefit in here for how sustainable the team is and ways that they have to clear those negative effects when they end up dropping under that 50% health. I think that's something that could be really good that you can play into. Again, like I mentioned before, that would end up taking Kahori away from your Annihilator team. Maybe there's going to be a way we can use the 4-piece and throw a different 5th member in here to really take advantage of that. Maybe like a Photon to get a little bit of A-Force synergy going on. We're really going to have to see how the Absolute A-Force is going to play a role here in the season of Cosmic Crucible. Now, the other team that I think can work in here is going to be the Astral Black Knight team. We're about to get the payouts for Shadow King, so having it to where he's a lot bigger and ways that he's able to clear negative effects on your side of the field, and how Doctor Strange is really able to manipulate the team where you have to be mindful of if you kill somebody, he's going to ult turn 1. The ultimate or the special, being able to flip your opponent's positive effects into negative effects. This team here could be very interesting in stage 6. Now, you do have to be mindful of what team you want to put in here, because the Cabal with Void Knight is going to be a very good offensive weapon this season, because having Void Knight basically be a villain character to where he can ult turn 1 and really get the Cabal team moving. So having it to where you can bait your opponent into using a Cabal team here without losing one of your best defensive options is going to be something that you really want to play into. That's why I went with the Extreme X-Men team in here. If I'm able to bait my opponent into using the Cabal into this team, that's going to count as a victory because they're not going to be able to use Cabal into one of my other bigger defensive options. Now, I know this was a lot of information. Hopefully this is able to kind of get you set up for the upcoming season of Cosmic Crucible. So if you do have any questions, feel free to hop in my Discord, hop in the comments. Feel free to be engaged with me. I'm really happy to help all of you out. Now, if you did enjoy this video, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, have a wonderful rest of the day.